This is Algebra 1, test number 8 study guide. We went through sections 3.1. Naming properties to begin. 2 times 12 is the same thing as 12 times 2. The only thing that happens is they commute from one spot to the other. 2's first and then 12's first. It's commutative property of multiplication. Number 2 says 6 times 3 times 11, and the same thing is equal to 6 times 3 times 11. The only thing that's different is the parentheses moves from the 6 times 3 first to the 3 times 11 first in the second one. So the association changes. That's the associative property, and it's of multiplication. 3 says, is the given number a solution? So the given number is 5. So 13 minus 5 is equal to 5. Let's see if it's true. 13 minus 5 is 8 is equal to 5. You ask yourself the question, is that true or not? No, it's not true, so it's not a solution. 2x equals x plus 5. When you plug in 9, 2 times 9 equals 9 plus 5. 2 times 9 we know is the number 18. 18, is that equal to 4? Is it true? No, it's not a solution. It has to be a true statement at the end in order to be a solution. 5 says solve 15 equals k plus 8. So undo plus 8 by subtracting on the right, subtracting on the left. 15 minus 8 is 7. That is the inverse of addition. K is the inverse of addition. N minus 7 equals 13. Undo minus 7 by adding 7. You do it to the left, do the same to the right. And 13 plus 7 is 20. That's the inverse. It's all the inverse of addition, but it makes more sense to people to say the inverse of subtraction. J minus 3 equals negative 10. Undo minus 3 by adding it to both sides. Negative 10 plus 3, opposite sign, subtract the absolute values. 10 minus 3, you get 7. And 10 is farther from 0. Its sign is negative, so that's why you keep 7 as a negative 7. J is negative 7, and again, the inverse of subtraction. Number 8, g plus a negative 4 is the same thing as g minus 4 equals negative 9. Undo minus 4 by adding 4 to the left, do the same to the right. Negative 9 plus 4, again, opposite terms. Subtract them. 9 minus 4 is 5, and 9's value is negative. It's the higher absolute value. That's why 5's value is negative. Inverse of subtraction again. You have to combine for number 9, negative 27 and negative 30. Same signs, add them up, you get negative 57. Negative 57. Undo k minus 57 by adding 57 to both terms. When you add 57 to negative 73, subtract the absolute values. Again, you get 16. And keep the higher absolute value, which is 73. That's why it remains negative 17. And again, that's the inverse of subtraction. 10 says simplify this expression, negative 1.4 minus a negative 4.3. Minus a negative means add the opposite plus a positive. So negative 1.43 plus 4.3 plus 6.3. When you combine all of those terms, leaves you with 9.3. 11 says the absolute value of 12 minus 14. You do what's inside the absolute values first. 12 minus 14 is the number negative 2. The absolute value of that means how far away is it from 0, and that's how we get 2. Number 12 says 8.1 times negative 2.9. 8.1 times negative 2.9, you get the number 2349. You have to move that decimal 2 times because it moves over 2 spots for these numbers here. 23.49, and since you're multiplying a negative and a positive, anytime it's opposite terms, anytime they're opposite, that's a negative value, and that's why it's negative 23.49. 13 says negative 3 to the 4th power. That means 3 times itself to the 4th power. 3 times 3 is 9. Times 3 is 27. Times 3 more is 81. And then you bring down the negative number. Never do you multiply negative 3 times itself 4 times because it's not in parentheses. Number 14 says 2/3 times 6m plus 18. Do 2/3 times 6m and 2/3 times 18. Multiply straight across. 2 times 6 is m is 12m. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 18 is 36. 3 times 1 is 3. When you divide 12m by 3, you get 4m. And when you divide 36 by 3, you get 12. So 4m positive or plus 12. 6 minus c times negative 1 is the same thing as negative 1 times 6 minus c. I just used the commutative property to change it. Then distribute negative 1 times 6. And negative 1 times negative c. Negative 1 times 6 is negative 6. And negative 1 a negative times a negative C is positive or plus C. 16 says -3 divided by -1. A negative divided by a negative. Anytime they're the same sign, it's going to be positive 3. -6z minus 25z. We put those like terms together. We're just subtracting them. So add the absolute value, 6 and 25, and you get 31. And keep that common sign negative to remain -31z. 18s, we're naming properties again. So we have -4 times -0.25 equals 1. Notice -0.25 is the same thing as -1/4. That's what I have written out here. It's the same thing as -1/4. When you're multiplying something by its inverse, you get the number 1. So that's the inverse property of multiplication. 10 plus 1/9 equals 1/9 plus 10. Again, all we're doing is moving them. We're just commuting them around, and that's of addition. -4 plus 3 plus 8 equals -4 plus 3 plus 8. The parentheses moved. We just changed the association, the associative property of addition. And then 4 times -6/4 equals -6/4 times 4. The only thing that changed was they commuted from one part to the other, commutative property of multiplication. So we have inverse, then commutative, associative, commutative, addition, and multiplication, respectively. It says you roll a standard number cube. Find the p, or probability, of a number greater than 4. A standard number cube is a 6-sided die. If we roll 2, we would say we're rolling dice. 1 is a die. There are 6 outcomes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the total is 6. It says find a probability. Probability is favorable over total. There are 2 options that are greater than 4. The only ones that are 5 and 6. So that's 2. Out of the total 6 is 2 out of 6. The number 2 goes into both. It goes into itself once and into 6 3 times. So 1/3 of a chance, or 1 out of 3. Find the probability of it even and not shaded. So we have 6 options up here. Probability, again, is favorable over total. Even and not shaded. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 2 is shaded, 4 is shaded, 6 is the only one that's not shaded. So that's 1 favorable outcome over the total 6. So your probability is 1 out of 6. Find the odds of the spinner. Find the odds of the spinner landing on a dark section. Odds, unlike probability, are favorable over unfavorable. So when we look at what we have again, it says the spinner landing on a dark section. 4 of them are dark out of the 6 total, but we're not talking about probability. We're talking about odds. So it's 4 favorables out of 2 that are not shaded, 2 unfavorables. So 4 to 2 is the same thing as 2 to 1. 25 says Tisha is in the French club, 32 students in the club. The teacher will pick 6 students to guide the French students. What is the probability to not be picked? So you have to look and see. You know that the total is 32. 6 will be picked. So 32 minus the students that will be picked gives you the number that won't be picked, or the ones not to be picked, 26. So the favorable outcome, since it says not to be picked, the favorable is 26. Remember, probability is favorable over total, so 26 over the total 32. The number 2 goes into both, 2 times 13 and 2 times 16, so 13 to 16, or 13 out of 16, that Tisha will not be picked. 26 says 890 calculators, 12 of them defective. What's the probability? Write it as a percent rounded to the nearest tenth. Again, probability is favorable over total. So the favorable outcome is a defective calculator. Even though that's not a good outcome, it's what we're looking for. That's why we call it favorable. So 12 out of 890. It says write it as a percent. So divide 12 by 890, and it gives you 0.134. Write it as a percent, so move that decimal 2 times to the right to make it percent or per hundred, and you get 1.34. Then it says rounded to the nearest tenth, so we want the digit right after the decimal. Look at 3 and then look to the number to the right of it. Had it been 5 or greater, we would make it 1.4%. But since it's less than 5, we remain at 1.3% rounded to the nearest tenth. Right, 5 times 5 times 5 using an exponent. That's 3 of them, so 5 to the third power. 3 over 8 minus 1 over 6. We're subtracting fractions. You need to have a common denominator. The smallest one that you can use is 24. They both go into 24. So what times 8 gives you 24? It's the number 3. You have to multiply the numerator or the top number by 3 to get 9 over 24. And what times 6 gives you 24? You have to multiply the numerator or the top number by 4. So 1 times 4 is 4. Now they have a common denominator, 24. Leave it alone and subtract 9 minus 4, and you get 5 out of 24. 9 over 10 divided by 6 over 10. Remember, when you divide fractions, to change division into multiplication and use the reciprocal of the second one, or flip it. 6 over 10 becomes 10 over 6. Multiply straight across. 9 times 10 is 90. 10 times 6 is 60. Take out the take out the 0 of each of them, you get 9 over 6. You know the number 3 goes into both of those. 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 2 is 6. Leaves you with 3 over 2. And then finally, the last one. Simplify 4 times 701 using the distributive property. 701 is the same thing as 700 plus 1. So distribute 4 times both of those. 4 times 700 and 4 times 1. 4 times 700 is 2800, since 4 times 7 is 28. And 4 times 1 is 4. 2800 plus 4 is 2804.